Hey, Adam Hooksema here from ProjectionHub, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you a tool that I've created that will help you calculate how much of an SBA loan your business or a business that you're looking to acquire might be able to qualify for. And so really this is kind of a sneak peek into the black box of underwriting. Like when you hear the term underwriting, are your loans going to go to underwriting? What do the underwriters actually do? Well, one of the first things that they're going to do, they'll probably call it spreading the financials. Basically, they're getting the historical financials, the historical tax returns into some sort of, probably a software, some sort of format where they can see what the historical cash flow looks like compared to the proposed SBA loan. That's going to help them determine how much can this business cash flow. And then every single lender is going to have different kind of requirements on what cash flow level they want to be at to feel comfortable. Okay, so I'm going to show you all of them. I'm going to kind of give you a peek into what underwriters are actually doing and what the banks, SBA lenders are actually doing. And so I'm going to give you this tool for free. So you'll be able to go to the link in the description of the video below. You can grab this tool, use it yourself, play with it. And then if you want to send your financials over, or the, of your existing business or the business that you're looking to buy and want me to just review that and give you some feedback, happy to do that for free. So feel free to use the tool to your heart's content. And then you can reach out to us at support@projectionhub.com. I'll take a look and give you some feedback. But let me show you how this works and really how the SBA lenders are actually, what they're actually doing behind the scenes. So let's just say we've got the last 3 years of historical tax returns. So that's going to be the first thing that your lender is going to ask you for is last 3 years of historical tax returns plus the current year-to-date financials. Okay, so in this example, we're saying, hey, we've got 9 months of 2025 financials and we have 22, 23, and 24 tax returns. And so we get the revenue and all of the expenses into the model. So what you want to do here is put in exactly what is on the tax return. The tax return is kind of the source of truth for the lender. So if you're using like a QuickBooks profit and loss statement, it could be useful. It's not kind of the gold standard. So if you have tax returns, that's what the lender's ultimately going to need and use that as kind of whatever you report to the IRS, that's what they're using to underwrite you. Okay, so that's what we usually try to use. We get that all the revenue and expenses into this format here. And then it's going to show you, okay, what was our net income on the tax return? Now, the net income, I've seen so many scenarios where you could have a net loss on the tax return, but once you start adding back different things that lenders will allow you to add back, all of a sudden a business that looks like it's not making any money, you're like, well, wait a second, once I add all of these things back, it's actually making a lot of money. And so it's really hard to tell unless you know what you're looking at, what types of things should be added back. How is a lender going to consider different add backs? So let me kind of continue on and show you some examples here. So the first thing I'm going to add back in this example is the seller's salary. So we've got owner's salary here, and the owner's been paying themselves $60,000 as a salary. And so it's showing up as an expense on the tax return, and it's reducing their net income, right? So when you look at this, the bottom line of the business, you can think about, well, the owner is also getting $60,000 a year plus the profit, right? So in many situations, you can add back the seller's compensation here, owner's compensation. And that gets you to this seller's discretionary earnings number, which you may have heard SDE. It's a common kind of, especially in acquisitions, SDE is kind of the buzzword name, right? So it gets you to this SDE number. Now, I want to point something out to you here that the seller's salary, there's a caveat. Yes, you can add it back and it does give you seller's discretionary earnings. Yes, that's true. But your lender may not really they may not give you that as an add back to say, hey, all of the seller's discretionary earnings is available to repay the loan. the lender may say that's not actually available because they look at your personal financial situation. You've got, maybe you're like me, you've got 4 kids, you got expenses, man. You can't take no salary. You need to take a salary. And so the lender may come back and say, yeah, actually, what they could do, so they may say, actually, you need to make more than 60,000. You're going to be leaving your job to acquire this business. You're going to have no outside income. You've got expenses. They may come back and say, actually, we think you need $75,000 of income out of the business. They may come in here and do this. They may say negative $15,000, negative $15,000. If I can type negative $15,000 here, and they may say this is actually what we think your adjustment should be. So they're going to say, we think you need this to take this $60,000 owner salary plus another $15,000. So now your seller's discretionary earnings, or really the cash that you have available to repay the loan, actually goes down. Okay. So I'm gonna go back here, and let's just assume maybe you're buying this business, you're keeping your day job, or you have a spouse that makes outside income, and you can make a really good case to say, I don't need to take a salary from this business. I can pay all my personal bills with other sources of income. If you can make a case for that, then great. You may actually be able to add back that seller salary. So that's probably the biggest number, the biggest decision that I see in acquisitions, where the buyer's trying to add back the seller salary, lender's saying, we're not going to let you do that. And so there's some negotiation there, right? Okay, then some other pretty clear cut in most situations, depreciation is almost always an add back. There's some nuances. I talk about that in some other videos on really talking about add backs in greater detail. So you may take a look at those, but let's just assume you can add back all of the depreciation because it's a non-cash expense. And then the interest on the debt. So if the current owner is paying on a loan and they've paid $15,000 in interest a year, well, when you buy the business, you're gonna pay that off. Now, if you're an existing business, so I'm kind of all talking acquisition here, but if you're an existing business, you still go through the same exercise here. But if you aren't retiring let's say you're gonna get this SBA loan and you're gonna retire some of the debt, but not all of it. Like maybe the SBA loan is gonna pay off some of the debt that you already have. So some of that interest expense will go away, but some of it you'll still have. You may only be able to add back a portion of the interest. So that's why in this case, actually, up here we have $15,000 of interest. We're only adding back $10,000 because maybe for whatever reason you're gonna have some other debt there that won't be retired. So this is the exercise you need to kind of go through and make a justification of what can I add back and why, right? To ultimately get to this estimated cash flow. So this estimated cash flow, the way I think about this is what you have available to pay on the loan. Okay. And so what the lender's then going to do is they're going to say, okay, let's assume an interest rate. And in this case, let's assume 10%, and let's assume a 10-year term. That's kind of a standard SBA 7A loan term for an acquisition. If it doesn't include real estate, 10 years is the typical term. So we set those assumptions, and then we can set an assumption of what is the debt service coverage ratio requirement. Okay, so every lender is going to have a slightly different debt service coverage ratio requirement. And what this means, if it says 1.25, that means you have $1.25 of estimated cash flow here for every dollar of annual debt service. All right, so what we're doing down here is we're taking your 48,000 here, we're dividing by 1.25 and then dividing by 12 months to come up with what's that maximum monthly loan payment that you can cash flow here. So we're saying 3,200 here. So if we just said, what's 3,200 times 12? That's 38,400. So 48,000 here is 1.25 times $38,400. All right, so that's how we're getting at that. And then from there, we can back into, and we've got this fancy little equation up here, but we can back into, okay, what's the maximum loan amount that this business can cash flow? So what's based on this 48,000 of cash available to make loan payments and a 1.25 debt service coverage ratio, we're saying the business can support a loan of 239,000. Now that was based on 2022 numbers, right? And so what you'll see here in this case, the business has been growing, and it's been growing much more profitable. And so your estimated cash flow has been increasing quite a bit. And so in the most recent year, the business can cash flow $1 million loan, $1,096,000, right? And so this is where it's going to completely depend on the lender, what your options are here. There are some lenders who will say, hey, we want you to hit 1.25 debt service coverage ratio every year for the last 3 years. There are some that will say, we want you to hit 1.6. So they may want you to have even higher. So just as an example, if I said, let's be at 1.6, that means you have even more cash flow available. So that lowers the maximum loan amount you can have. There are some lenders that will say, hey, we're okay if you're just 1-to-1 in 2 furthest years back. So like years 2 and 3 back. Maybe you're just 1-to-1, but in the most recent year, we want you to be at 1.25. And year to date, we want you to be at 1.25. So it could be something like this. Now, in a scenario like this, the way I look at this, whatever the lowest dollar amount here that you see in this maximum loan amount, that's your maximum loan amount. So if you're working with a lender that says, hey, we require at least a 1-to-1 debt service coverage ratio on each of the last 3 years, you're kind of stuck at this number. If I were to see a business that looked like this growing significantly, and this, because your seller is going to say, I'm not going to sell you my business for $299,000. I think it's worth $1 million, right? So I think what you'll probably be able to find is a lender that says, okay, in situations like this, hey, we're comfortable, it's growing, it's steady, year to date looks good, trending in the right direction. If you can put a good story together of why that's going to continue, you're probably going to be able to find a lender that says, okay, we'll just kind of ignore these 22 and 23 and we'll focus on the last year and year to date and be able to get you a larger loan amount. So it's really going to matter what lender you end up working with, because if you work with a lender that says it's got to cash flow all 3 of the last 3 years, the difference in the loan amount you qualify for is the difference between these two numbers is nearly $800,000. So that's a huge difference. But this is the type of analysis that the SBA lenders are doing. And when a lot of times what I hear from clients is they say, well, I sent my financials, I sent my tax returns to a lender and they said it wouldn't work, or they said it doesn't cash flow, or they said they won't be able to help me and I don't really know why. This is probably what they're doing. This is the process they're going through. So if you want to try to convince them why you think this should work or why this should cash flow, you could use this tool, get the numbers from the seller or from your current existing business, get your numbers into this model and then see what your estimated cash flow looks like. And then you would shock a lender if you said, hey, I'm applying for a loan and I sent you this little tool here that shows you what my debt service coverage ratio is and how much I might be able to borrow. You'd shock a lender. You'd be way ahead of the pack. So do that and let me know how it goes. I think we'd love to be able to review the numbers that you have. If you have questions, you want to run that by us, I'm happy to help with that. So, all right, best of luck to you. Make sure to go down in the link in the description below and grab this free tool. And if you found this to be helpful, I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel. We're trying to build up the subscribers on our channel here, talking about SBA related content, and then like the video. I'd really appreciate it. All right, thanks.